Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
We're the brothers of Great Millstone, Charlotte, coming at you again through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai. And before we get started with this lesson, we'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rachaha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us the truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you we say shalom.
Shalom.
So in this lesson, we're going to be touching on well, the title that I named this is "There is no difference between Jew and the Greek," right? Pretty much touching on the Israelite foreigners. You know, pretty much just clarifying on the misconception that these Catholic churches and these Christians, uh, at least their interpretation of what they like to call what's that term that they like to say?
Supersessionism.
Yeah, supersessionism, replacement theology, right? They like to talk
Yeah.
about how you got something like
When you're done talking, I got a definition for it right here.
con, but pretty much the fact that they like to say that everybody can be saved, that everybody can be included in. All you gotta do is believe, right? But as we know, according to the scriptures, when you put everything in context, in this proper context, these Christians like to say that we do what's it called, Hebrew hopscotch, that we take things out of context. But when you know the history, as the Apostle Tahar likes to say, when you understand, or you got to understand the history to understand the mystery, right? And it's very important to understand the history because that way you understand who the Bible is pertaining, who the Bible is pertaining to, and to who this message is for, and to whom salvation is afforded to, right? You got it, Doc.
This is the definition for supersessionism. It says, "New covenant." This is a summary of it, or I guess the word would be parafiction, or a paraphrase. It says, "New covenant replaces Mosaic to the nation of Israel." So pretty much they like to say that, okay, well, the new covenant is talking about, it's pretty much allotted to everybody. That's what they like to say.
Right, right. Pretty much saying that they like to say that the most high ain't dealing with all of Israel no more. Now he's dealing with the whole world. That he expanded his horizon, right? But the scriptures say, the most high changes not, right? He don't change. He's always dealt with Israel, and he's always going to deal with Israel, right? So we can start off, Baba Kushar, if you can get Romans 10 and verse 12.
This is Romans chapter 10. Chapter 10 and verse 12, it says, "For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him."
And this verse has been, grossly misused in the Christian and Catholic churches, right? They don't understand or put it in the proper context because throughout the whole scriptures, even in the New Testament, it talks about Israel being saved, how everything's pertaining to Israel, right? All these things, the blessings, the promises, to whom Yahushua came for, was only for his people, right? But they like to use this and twist it up and make it fit their narrative, right? But like I said, you got to understand the mystery you got to understand the history to understand the mystery, right? So Baba Kushar, if we can get First Maccabees, the first chapter, we can start at verse 10.
This is First Maccabees chapter 1. You said verse 10?
Khan.
It's First Maccabees 1 and 10. It says, "And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks."
Right. So if um, in the book of First Maccabees, right here at this part, this is the beginning of that Greek Empire coming up, right? or actually, this is actually getting closer to the end of the Greek Empire, but um, pretty much this is the time period we're talking about here, right? Go ahead.
In those days went there out Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Right, because you always had, wicked jakes, right? These sellouts that would always wanted to go and cleave unto the heathen nations, take on their customs, take on their ways, because they would see these heathen prospering, right, and doing well, so they'll want to go and pretty much they like to they see that the grass is greener on the other side, so they like to go and take on what they're doing, right, as a means to better themselves, not knowing that doing that will cause even more destruction unto the nation, unto yourselves, and unto the people. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 13 or verse 12. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so for herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
Right. They started, you know, taking on their customs, taking on their holidays. Even going as far as worshiping their idols. Go ahead.
Whereupon they built a place of whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and they made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
Right. So ultimately, they became like the heathen, right? They took on their ways, they took on their customs, and they ended up behaving and became Hellenized, right? Became as what we call Gentiles, right?
Got
And we
precept.
can, you got it.
You finish your point.
Uh, I was going to ask you to get a precept, but you can get that.
This is Second Maccabees chapter 4, and I'm gonna get verse 9. It says, beside this, it says, I'm starting verse 7. It says, but
Mhm.
after the death of Seleucus, which I believe he was the head of like the Seleucid Empire. It says, but
Mhm.
after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 303 score talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise and for the training of the youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochus, which when the
Mhm.
king had granted, he had gotten to his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to Greekish fashion. Because we had our own laws, statutes, and commandments and customs of us. So essentially this was around about the time period to where Jake was ascribing to the heathenish ways, and that entailed of wearing hats, because that was around by the time of Jason. I believe this is gonna go into that, and then also like the Olympics and stuff like that. All those
Right.
different types of games that's in the Olympic Games, because back then they was the Greeks, if not mistaken, the Romans as well, but they was pretty much into those different idols. I think Olympius or Olympia goes back to the Greeks or the Romans, but it says in the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John the father of Epolemus, who went who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid. He took away and putting down the governments which were according to the law. He brought up new customs against the law, for he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. That's not our customs. We not, you know, that's not our customs to wear hats. Like nowadays you see guys prophesying in hats. Verse
Mhm.
13. Now now such was the height of Greek fashions and increase of heathenish manners through the exceeding profaneness adjacent that ungodly wretch. and no high priest. It says that the priest had no courage to serve anymore at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance and the place of exercise after the game of discus called them forth, not setting the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all. You see, so you pretty much had gyms and stuff like that, which gym goes back to gymnos, which means naked. But then also it says hasten to be partakers of the unlawful allowance and the place of exercise after the game of discus called them forth. Because they actually got a game called discus to where, pretty much they throwing a weighted disc. Pretty much Jake was putting this over the work of the Lord. And we see that today, in present day. Jake is into basketball. Striving to get a ring. Get the bag, get the money. Get a contract to get signed.
Mm-hmm. Con. Yes, something else, Sock?
Mm-hmm. Should I get something else?
Con. No, I was gonna ask you if you had something else.
Oh, la.
Con. Can you get Matthew 18 and 15, or start at 15? Because
8 and 15.
18 and start at 15. Because
This is Matthew chapter.
I was gonna say because in the scriptures it talks about it. As a matter of fact, you go ahead and read it.
Matthew 18 and 15.
Con.
This is Matthew 18 and 15. It says, moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican.
Right. If because you had people back then, right, who would try to correct those jakes that departed and went away, but they weren't trying to. Of course, they weren't trying to hear it, so they ended up taking on these customs and idols and the ways of the heathen. So in turn, hey, those Jews, the Israelites that were in Jerusalem, hey, they viewed these jakes that took on their customs as heathen. They viewed them as Gentiles. That's the reason why this explains Romans 10 and 12, right? There's no difference between Jew and Greek, because you had, of course, Israelites who had taken on these customs, man, and became as the Greek, even started calling themselves Greeks, or started calling themselves under these names of the places that they were living at, right? And we can get into that too. We can get was it Acts? Get Acts, Baba Kushah. Can you get Acts 2 and verse 5? Or start at verse 5?
You even had Jake's. I mean, Jake said nowadays, you see, but that term stems from the idea of like Greece and Rome. Jake say nowadays, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Gone.
Like, so pretty much like blend in, become like the heathen.
Right.
This is you said 2 and 5.
Gone.
This is Acts chapter 2 and verse 5. It says, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven.
All right. Now, so you can just real quick. It says right there, there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So what does that mean? It means that there were Israelites living in these other nations, right? Amongst the heathen, right? Because hey, you gotta understand, Israel wasn't just living, or the Israelites, the Jews, they weren't just living in Jerusalem. They were traveling, they were trading, they were, going here, going there. Some of them lived, outside the land, and to do business or whatever, for whatever reason, right? They ended up, living in these areas. They weren't strictly tied down to Jerusalem or to the land of Israel. So that's something that Jace gotta, or whenever you're reading the scriptures, that's something you gotta take account of. Same thing as now, you have, Israel living in these various parts of the world. of course, a lot of that has to do with slavery and the curses. But hey, even here, you have Jake that grew up here in America, but ended up going overseas and then living over there and establishing themselves in these other locations, right? So that's something that needs to be taken into account, right? You can go ahead.
Acts 2 and verse 6, it says, "Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded because that every man heard them speak in his own language. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not these which speak Galileans? And now hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born.
Right.
Part
So
Parthians and Medes and Elamites and dwellers in Mesopotamia and in Judea and Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia and Egypt and parts of Libya about Cyrene and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians, we do hear them speak in our own tongues the wonderful works of the Most High."
right, because you had generations of Jake, that were living in these areas.
Mm-hmm.
So they grew up, speaking the languages of the heathen. And they heard the apostles, because the Holy Spirit came upon them, so they started speaking in different tongues. So they started hearing these things, right? I started hearing them speak in whatever language, that they came from, right? Because I believe it's like 3 times out of the year, these devout men will come over to the land of Jerusalem and for the high holy days, right? You had the Pentecost, which was what they call the Feast of First Fruits, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I
And
think it
that's
was something about 5 weeks. My bad.
what was that?
I think it was something about 5 weeks or something like that.
Con. I can't remember. I think con, but I think it was that. But the point being is that you had these men from all these other lands, right, come over here to the land of Jerusalem, and they would keep that high holy day, right? And it named the list, right, from the Medes, Elamites, Mesopotamia, Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, all over the place, right? And they called themselves by the names of the locations that they were living at, right? So these ain't heathen, these ain't Gentiles, like actual like heathens that came from these places and converted themselves into, what the world like to say Judaism, right? They were actually, Israelites that were keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, right? Um, Baba Kushah, actually, I'll get this real quick. Baba Kushah, can you get John 7, and you can start at verse 33, but I'll get this real quick. This is First Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 2. It says, "Ye know that ye were Gentiles, carried away unto these dumb idols, even as you were led." Right. So even us, we were in that Gentile state of mind, right? Not knowing who we were, calling ourselves under the names Black, Hispanic, Native American, right? Calling ourselves by these proverbs and bywords and subscribing to Jesus Christ, right? Subscribing to Buddha, Allah, whatever, right? Celebrating Christmas, celebrating Halloween, Thanksgiving. These are all heathen customs, heathen mannerisms that we were partaking in. But now that we have, you know, uh, uh, woken up, now we're being, brought back in. That's pretty much the grafting in, right? Spoken about it in Romans, the 11th chapter, right? The Apostle Paul, spoke about this. We were that wild olive tree, right? Because when you go into the scriptures, as a matter of fact, just real quick, let me get this. This is Jeremiah 11 and 16. Just going into that point, you had the olive tree and the wild olive tree, right? This is Jeremiah 11:16. It says, Yahweh called thy name a green olive tree, fair and of goodly fruit. With the noise of a great tumult, he hath kindled fire upon it, and the branches of it are broken, right? Because ultimately we fell away, right? That's why those branches were broken off, and we became that wild olive tree, you know,
Okay.
pretty pretty much being unkempt, not taken care of, because the Most High is that husbandman that takes care of that tree. But since we departed away from the Most High, we became this wild olive tree, growing all crooked, have uh, s- weeds and all kinds of shit growing around it. You know, we were all pretty much a deformed looking tree, right? But now, hey, we're able to be grafted back in because we're part of that same lineage. We're part of that same the same. We're the same people, man. We are the Israelites spoken about in the scriptures. And now we're coming back. Now we're able to be grafted back into that good olive tree. You have some, Mark?
I misquoted, but pretty much Pentecost in Greek, the Pente part, or just Pentecost goes into the 50th day.
Right. I believe that's the end of the
Pesach, 50,
yeah,
50
that
days from the end of Pesach.
right. I think it's like the end of the feast. They call it the Feast of Weeks.
Yeah, Feast of Weeks, yeah.
Yeah. Con. Yeah, some Mark.
Oh, lie, no.
You can get that was it Matthew? I said Matthew
You said
18.
John 7 and
Oh,
33.
John 7. Con.
This is John chapter 7 and verse 33. It says, Then said Yahweh unto them, Yet a little while am I with you, then I go unto him that sent me. Ye shall seek me and shall not find me, and where I am, thither ye cannot come. Then said the Jews among themselves, Whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles?
Right. So it was well known, in the ancient world that there were Israelites dispersed, right, among the Gentiles, and they were calling them Gentiles, right, because they were, getting tattoos, they were going up there, in those gyms, naked. When you go into the how those gyms were back then, the Roman times, they were naked, butt ass naked, up in those gyms working out, which is something in the law that we shouldn't be looking upon another man naked, right?
Right.
So these
That's
are
why.
things that they were partaking in. What are you gonna say, Ak?
That's why when you go into gyms, you see Esau doing that shit. But that shows you who the Romans was, or who the Edomites is, and then of course, we found that even though we before this truth, we subscribed to the different ways of the heathen. We knew that shit wasn't right. In our spirit.
Mhm. Right. I remember going to the gym. You go to the damn sauna or whatever. You see a
Hmm.
old ass Edomite man with damn goddamn thing hanging out, man.
Right,
It's just
walking
like,
around the
god
locker
damn,
room and
bro.
shit.
Right. Walking around the locker room all naked and shit. You know, with no goddamn shame.
Right.
But hey, but like you said, even at that age, even during that time we were operating as a Gentile. We knew that shit was wrong,
Hmm.
right? That shows you the difference between uh, 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 our spirit and their spirit. You know.
Hmm.
Um. Oh yeah. What I was gonna say is, going back to that John 7:35, right? Uh, Back then it was well known that there were Israelites. Well, at least amongst Israel, it was well known that there were Jakes out there in amongst these other nations, right? And they were calling them under these other names, Greeks, Romans, all these other names, right? So this is well known. So, and this is something that the church they don't tell you about, or these what they call them theologians or whatever. They don't tell you this because ultimately, it's not in their spirit to know. They don't touch on history as far as lining things up properly, putting things in its proper context, right? But we can get Romans chapter 9, just to seal the deal right here. Romans 9, and we can start at the top.
This is Romans chapter 9 and verse 1. It says, I say the truth in Hamashayak. I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Spirit that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Hamashayak, from my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of the Most High and the promises.
So, hey, the Apostle Paul done broke it down, right? It says, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites. You see? And the Apostle Paul's office was unto who? Unto the Gentiles, right? He speaks about that too. I am the apostle of the Gentiles. I magnify my office, right? So he was speaking unto the Israelite foreigners that were among these nations, trying to bring them back into the fold. He was seeking out for the elect. The same thing we're doing now, right? We're waking up Jake out of that Gentile state of mind, and we're bringing them back into the Lord. That was the whole purpose of that, right? But yeah, it says who pertaineth the adoption, because the adoption, all it means is to bring back. How can you be brought back when you were never a part of that thing in the first place, right? These heathen were never a part of this thing. There's a scripture, I believe it's in Job. It talks about how he has not given his statutes unto no one else, his laws and statutes. So he was only dealing with the Most High was only dealing with Israel to begin with, and he's only dealing with Israel right now, right? Also, it says the glory and the covenants, right, and the giving of the law, the service of the Most High, and the promises. The promises being the deliverance, the kingdom of heaven. All these things is only afforded to the Israelites. It ain't afforded to the whole kingdom. Salaki, it ain't afforded to the whole world, right? Because in the kingdom, there's going to be servants. Israel is going to have slaves. Who are those slaves going to be if everybody is going to be a part of the is going to be in the kingdom and going to be how should I say it? Pretty much be able to be grafted in.
Right? You want that Psalm 147?
Yeah, come on, you can get that. I thought it was Job, Salakia.
God, this is Psalms 147 and verse 19. It says, He sheweth his word unto Ya'aquab, his statutes and his judgments unto Yasha'Allah. He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord.
Right. You see? So that just clarifies that, right? The Most High has only gave in the law, statutes, and commandments unto Israel. So all these other nations can't be adopted back in. You can't be grafted in when you ain't a part of this thing, right? It talks about I read earlier how in Jeremiah how we were called and how the Lord called us an olive tree, right? All these other nations, when you go into the scriptures, they're called what? Cedars. They're called all these other type of trees, and you can't graft in a different plant with you can't graft in a different plant onto another plant. You can't graft an orange tree onto an apple tree. It ain't gonna work. You can't graft them both together, right? So the same thing with these heathen, they can't be grafted in. So by them doing that, you ultimately, you err not knowing the scriptures, right? By saying that. But we can finish out that Romans 9 and 5, and that'll be pretty much it if you have nothing else.
Okay. This is Romans chapter 9 and verse 5. It says, starting verse 4, it says, Who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of the Most High and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh of Hamashayak, came, who is over all, the Most High blessed forever. Amen.
Right. And one thing I want to touch on too in verse 4, it says, in the service of the Most High. So the teaching and the preaching of this word is only afforded to the Israelites. Anybody that's not of the seed and the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not going to be able to break these scriptures down. you're not going to be able to get it. You're not going to be able to understand it because it wasn't meant for you, right? But it says, whose are the fathers, and to whom concerning the flesh Hamashiach came, who is over all, God best forever. Amen. Right. So John 3:16, that's speaking about Israel only. As a matter of fact, when you go into John 3:16, when it says God so loved the world, right, that word cosmos is going into a harmonious arrangement, right? Constitution, you know. If you go into that word constitution, it means the laws, right? So unto whom were the laws given? We just read it. Unto Israel. So the Most High is only dealing with the nation of Israel at the end of the day, unto those whom he gave the laws to, right? So Yahushua only came to deliver his elect out of that nation, right? Of course, we know in the scriptures how it says, uh, all Israel shall be saved, because in the kingdom of heaven, all Israel is going to be delivered. All Israel is going to be, enjoying the kingdom, right? We ain't going to be, there ain't going to be no more Israelites out here, being in captivity or being, taken advantage of by the heathen, right? All Israel is going to be, at rest finally, right? Um, but that was pretty much it. You have anything else?
I got a couple.
Khan.
This is Zechariah. Could you get Habakkuk chapter 1 and verse 5? And get Zechariah chapter 12.
Khan.
Zechariah chapter 12 and verse 7. It says, the Lord also shall save the tents of Yahweh first, the glory of the house of David, and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. So the truth essentially was with the in that time, pretty much the truth was allotted to the Jews, Benjamin, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi at that time, and essentially they felt as if they was only going to be allotted salvation, and pretty much that the rest of the nation was scattered to to different areas. They was keeping the heathen customs, so they was treating it as if they was going to be only allotted salvation. They treat them like outcasts,
Right.
and that's why it says in Habakkuk 1 in the 5th chapter. If we get that real fast.
Khan. This is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 1 and verse 5. Behold ye among the heathen, and regard and wonder marvelously, for I will work a work in your days, which ye will not believe, though it be told to you.
Right, and that work was pretty much bringing in the Israelite foreigners, because they was treating them as if they was outcasts, those that was keeping the customs, so that's why I said there'll be that you would not believe though it be told unto you, because they felt like well, why they getting a lot of salvation, because they keeping the heathen customs,
Right.
and just to prove because we got Matthew, I think it was the 10th chapter, or well, we got it in Matthew or John chapter 7 verse 32 to 35. But
Right.
this is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 64. It says, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the heaven even unto the other. Because Jake was scattered across the globe, because in the known world, Jake was over there in the Eastern Hemisphere, you see. But then also, around the time of Hosea the king, you had Northern Kingdom come over here, which I believe it included half the tribe of Levi, right?
Khan.
It was like, yeah, half the tribe of Levi.
You're talking about that were over here?
Yeah, that came over here. It was half tribe of Levi that came over here as well?
La, I believe because during the time of I forget what king of the northern tribes, they ended up exiling all the Levites down to the southern kingdom.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it was the 10 tribes that pretty much came over here, Northern Kingdom, and over to the Americas. So we were scattered over here as well, subscribing to the different the different idols. But it says, from one end of the heaven even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So pretty much, yeah, that shows who the Israelites are, because Jake upholds the ways of the heathen more than the heathens do. Jake could take something and then just go full speed with it. It just shows who we are as a people. Those that are subscribing to the ways of the heathen, you see, but they are nevertheless, in fact, Israelites, just taking hold to those different ways. I got one more. This is Romans chapter 8 and verse 16. It says, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we're the children of the Most High. So even though you got Jake now taking hold to the ways of the heathen, you can still tell if someone's a Jake, just off of some of the things that they do in the spirit, and the prophecies, that fit us as a people in totality.
Right. It's like a damn the missing piece of that jigsaw puzzle, right? It fits perfectly. All these the curses, the prophecies, everything that Jake does, it fits perfectly, it lines up that we are the children of Israel, right? And you have this I was reading the book, I believe you read it too, what's it called? Bury My Heart, A Wounded Knee,
Uh-huh.
right? It talks about right there how, the similarities that we had, or the similarities that Gad, had
Mm-hmm.
with children of Israel, because we were the children of Israel, or they are the children of Israel, right?
Right.
And a lot of these historians or even these theologians, they like to dismiss some of those characteristics because they'll say, "Oh, well, they ate pork, or well, they did this and they did that. That's contrary to the scriptures, or so they can't be the people." But don't. But hey, Jake always fell off. Jake would always go off. Just because they ain't keeping the laws 100% don't mean that they ain't the people. You know, how can it be that these people they were wearing the fringes, right? They were eating unleavened bread. They were keeping. They knew the Hebrew. They prayed unto Yahweh. Even though it was distorted, there were certain things that they did that showed you that they were the children of Israel. Yeah, you can't dismiss that as being coincidence. That shows you that they, you know, spoken about it in what is it, Second Esdras, the 13th chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever it talks about those 10 tribes that settled over here, that's all history that Esau tried to erase. That's the reason why they call the Apocrypha, meaning hidden books. Esau tried to hide these truths, Maccabees, Second Maccabees, right? All these things they try to hide to to push that narrative of replacement theology, right? Supersessionism, right? But I got a quick one. This is Jeremiah 3:23. It says, "Truly in vain is salvation hoped for from the hills," and hills can represent these various nations, right? It says, "And from the multitude of mountains," also representative of these nations. It says, "Truly, Yahweh, our power, is the salvation of Israel." You see, and it's always going to be like that. It's always going to be for the Israel. Salvation is only for the Israelites. Yahweh Shah only came for the Israelites, the elect of the nation of Israel. To be more specific, but that's pretty much the point, right? And these are points that you can't dismiss. These are points that you can't go around, right? Everything that we've been going into, you know, these Christians, these Catholics, these all these other guys, they'll try to wiggle around it, try to include in the Edomites, include in all these other nations, but you can't do it, right? As I mentioned earlier, you can't graft in an apple tree onto an olive tree, an orange tree onto an olive tree. You can't do it. It don't mix, right? Um, yeah, something else like
I got two more. This is Deuteronomy Barium chapter 33 and verse 7. It says, This is the blessing, and this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, Hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and be thou in help to his enemies. You see, because pretty much, Judah was still while the 10 tribes is over here. Judah was still over in the Holy Land. So they were pretty much being bought over here. That's that. Pretty much, yeah. That's what they was being bought over here around by the time of slavery. Because right here, this is Isaiah chapter 22 and verse 18. It says, He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. There thou shalt die, and the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of The shame of the Salah. Read it over. It says Isaiah 22:18 says, "He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. There thou shalt die, and there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of thy Lord's house." And that's pretty much when on those slave ships, you know. I believe that's what I was talking about when I was talking about Levi when they came over with Judah into captivity.
Right. Right.
Because the scripture say, I got one more if I can. This is Jeremiah 50. You about to say something, bro?
No, I said you got it.
Because the scriptures say that we were always in captivity together over here, because we were scattered, and we were scattered. Keeping the ways of the heathen back in the in those times. This is Jeremiah 50:33. It says, "Thus saith the Lord of hosts." Oh, you had that?
Yeah, I had that. Want me to read it for you?
Yeah, you got it.
This is Jeremiah 50 and verse 33. It says, "Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast."
Right. It says the children of Israel and children of Judah. Israel is the southern kingdom, and then
northern kingdom.
The northern kingdom, yeah. And the children of Judah, that's the southern kingdom. So it says we're oppressed together here in America, Babylon the Great. It says, and all that took them captives held them fast. They didn't want to tell us that we was the people. It says they refused to let them go because just like in ancient Egypt, essentially in every captivity, is what keeps that economy thriving. So pretty much that's the same today. That's free labor.
Right. Jake is the workforce. Jake is pretty much the backbone, and Jake is also the consumer. That's like you said. They're pretty much what drives the economy, or what moves the economy. They're pretty much the life force behind it. Right. So hey, imagine if all Jake were let go. America would collapse that day. That'd be the end of America. Right. So that's the reason why in Revelation the 11th chapter, where it states a great fear fell upon them which saw them.
Yep.
Hey, that's the reason why it's, us waking up is a major threat unto Esau, because they understand that they can't control us no more. That mental bondage that they had on us, because first it was physical bondage, then they broke us, and now they put this mental bondage on us. But now that Israel's waking up, they can't really control what we do, really. They can't influence us like they used to before. They can't keep us in this perpetual cycle of sin, right? Because they understand in the book of Judith, right, the 5th chapter. It explains that how if we were to continue in our way in our customs, right, in the righteous customs, right, the law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord, that the Most High will come and defend us. But if we were away from our power and we transgressed the laws, we sinned, right, how we will be easily susceptible to being taken captives, to being taken down, right? So and this all fits. This is the reason why we were oppressed, because we were going off. This is the reason why Esau was able to come over here into the Americas and or at least Cristobal Colon, it started off with him, right, coming over here and taking down the Taínos, right? Then you had what's the name, Hernan Cortez, come over here and take down the rest of the Latin tribes, right? You had these Ishmaelites, right, go over there and round, or the Hamites and the Ishmaelites, right, round up Jake over there in Africa, right? Even before that, right, even before the Northern Kingdom got put into slavery, you had the Moors, right, get taken down over there in Europe by Esau, right? So all these things is a reason, is a cause and effect of us transgressing the laws, right? So all these things, it needs to be understood in order to understand to whom these scriptures pertain to, and to whom these scriptures are talking about, right? But that was pretty much it, Doc. You had anything else?
No, I have none.
Con. So we pray this lesson was edifying. We're gonna go ahead and close it out by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who taught us this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Until the next time, we're going to say Shalom.
Shalom.